What up, Minneapolis? It's Lizzo, and it's election day. And I just wanted to give y'all some words of encouragement. If you haven't had the opportunity to go out and vote, the polls close at 8 p.m. Go out there and make your voice heard. Y'all have been doing the work. We have been seeing y'all, and we are so encouraged. So I just want to encourage you right back and let you know that we are with you. Go out there, make that vote, and make a change to make Minneapolis safer.
All right, guys, so I know with all eyes on Virginia and Glenn Youngkin's victory there, the red wave that is sweeping across the nation, I think it's important to focus on some policy wins for the GOP as Minneapolis, the city that birthed the Defund the Police movement, decided that, you know what, this defund the police idea probably is not a good idea, as yesterday they voted on a ballot initiative regarding whether or not they wanted to defund the police, replace their police department with a Department of Public Safety, effectively getting rid of the police department as they know it currently. And it looks like the citizens essentially said no, right? So and this is an important thing to talk about, guys, because in my opinion, you're gonna see a whole lot of back and forth between progressives and the establishment Democrats in terms of why they lost Virginia, and maybe they might lose New Jersey. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but you're going to see a whole lot of back and forth, and there's going to be a lot of finger pointing, and progressives are going to argue. They're going to say, well, it's because you didn't follow through with all of our policies, right? You didn't do Build Back Better. You didn't do the progressive policies, right? And the establishment is going to say, well, it's because the Republicans are racist, right? It's because of white supremacy. That's what they're going to say. However, in my opinion, both of them are wrong, as I think it's obvious that people don't want progressive policies as much as the left tries to make it out to be, right? They swear up and down that everybody wants progressive policies, and the only reason Democrats don't win more is because they don't do everything progressives want, right? But we have a progressive policy on the ballot in Minneapolis, right? The birthplace of the Defund the Police movement, the same place that basically propelled Black Lives Matter to superstardom. The citizens there, after all this, after George Floyd, said no, we don't want to abolish our police department. So let's read a little bit more about this, and then we're going to talk about the red wave that is currently sweeping the country. The far left progressives of Minneapolis suffered a major defeat on Tuesday night when the city overwhelmingly voted no on a measure that would abolish the police department, a measure that Representative Ilhan Omar supported. With 130 out of 136 precincts reporting, the voters of Minneapolis voted against question 2 by 57%, 76,820 votes versus 59,196 votes in favor, aiming to be the most extreme anti-police measure to pass in the United States. The amendment would have had the city charter remove the Minneapolis Police Department and replace it with a Department of Public Safety, according to Fox 9. The amendment would also have eliminated the position of police chief as well as the minimum police staffing requirement. According to Ballotpedia, the Department of Public Safety would have dramatically altered law enforcement in Minneapolis, removing the police department's minimum funding requirement in a city that has seen a 286% increase in carjacking since 2020. All right, so yeah, I mean, anybody with common sense could have predicted this, right? In a city with rising crime, right, murders, violence, they're not going to want to replace the police with a Department of Public Safety where you don't have a minimum funding requirement. You don't have a minimum number of officers, which means that essentially the police department is a political tool at that point. If the whole city is run by left-wing progressives who pay for their own security, right, like Ilhan Omar, but really don't seem to give a damn about anybody else's security, then that to me seems like that would open up the police department to essentially be way underfunded and minimally staffed, right? Because these people live in a dream world where they believe that mental health workers and social services workers can replace police officers. So again, if I'm a citizen of Minneapolis, I think that the answer to this is obvious, right? No, I don't want to replace the police department with a Department of Public Safety and bring it under the control of a whole bunch of far left-wing lunatics. Why would I want to do that? Why do I want to do that? Because obviously they're calling to abolish the police, right? They want to get rid of the police. But at the same time, they go out here and they pay for their own protection because, they need protection, right? Their lives are in danger, okay? But they don't care about anybody else's lives, right? So, again, yeah, I mean, I'm really not surprised by this at all. What I actually am surprised about is as many people voted for it as they did. So we're going to skip this part. Though Democrat Mayor Jacob Frey opposed the measure, it received enthusiastic support from none other than squad member Ilhan Omar and Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. Pop star Lizzo also endorsed the measure. All right, so this is all of the woke revolutionaries endorsing this. The Yes for Minneapolis campaign received up to $2.97 million donations, including $650,000 from the George Soros Open Society Policy Center. Conversely, all of MPLS, the PAC opposed to the measure, received just $1.59 million, though Governor Tim Walz and Senator Amy Klobuchar publicly opposed the measure as the vote loomed closer. They refused to openly campaign against it, according to the Star Tribune, which honestly is a mistake in my opinion, because Democrats, man, look, that's the problem, right? You can't sit on the fence when it comes to this issue, right? You can't say, well, we don't support it, but we're also not against it either, right? When you know that this policy right here is a losing issue, right? Which is why a ton of Republicans gained ground in the House during the 2020 election, right? They know that defund the police was a part of that, okay? But yet still, they have people like George Soros out here funding this type of stuff. And he's not just funding this. He's also funding a ton of progressive DAs, right, across the country that are implementing soft on crime, no bail policies that are allowing criminals to run around on the streets, right, in the name of so-called social justice and progressivism, right? That's what's happening. That's what's happening. So let's read a little bit more here. They would just as soon not get involved in Minneapolis politics and be out in front of an issue that's, no matter what position they take, guaranteed to upset some of their supporters, said Catherine Pearson, a University of Minnesota political science professor. If they were to be actively campaigning against it, it would really highlight the divide within the Democratic Party. Klobuchar later clarified that she had not been asked to campaign against the measure. Quote, the police chief cannot report to a dozen bosses, and I have made my opposition to this amendment clear from the beginning, she said. Yeah, so I mean, the Democrats are going to have to stand up to these progressives, right? Because I just don't believe that people want these policies as much as progressives claim, right? So, if they continue riding the fence on issues like this so they don't lose progressive support, even though most of the country is not progressive, they're just going to lose in general, right? And this is something that it's showing up in what's going on across the country right now. As, again, like I've been telling you guys, there seems to be a red wave going on, as the New Jersey governor race is a whole lot closer than what it should have been. Now, this election just flipped to the Democrat, Phil Murphy, having the lead, literally as I was doing this video, because the Republican candidate, Jack Cottarelli here, he was leading for most of the night. Right now, this election was supposed to not be close. It was not supposed to be close. It was supposed to be Democrats and basically a 10-point blowout. That was supposed to happen. But instead, what happened is that the Republican candidate has put up a great fight, right? I mean, he basically could still win, but probably is not, because there's more Democrat precincts to report. And there's not really much more to go in regards to Republican precinct. So there's not really much more left, not many more votes left for the Republican candidate. But regardless, just the fact that he performed this well, also considering what happened in Virginia as basically Republicans took over that state, it's showing you that people are not just backlashing against, it's critical race theory, blah, blah, blah. Critical race theory had nothing to do with what's going on in New Jersey. It's also the whole progressive policies, it's the Democrat agenda, it's the Biden administration, right? That's what's happening. So whether this is a win or a loss, it is still a W for the GOP and conservatives in this country, right? What's going on? Because again, this is telling you that people are not on board with the Democrat agenda. Now, this also comes as Trump gets a win here, right? As his guy, Mike Carey, whom he backed for U.S. House in Ohio, he's won his race, which is important for Trump because Trump right now, his task is to prove that, hey, my candidates can not only win primaries, but they can win general elections as well. So this guy winning in Ohio is a good win for Trump in regards to him trying to exert more control and influence over the Republican Party, essentially trying to become a kingmaker like Mitch McConnell is. And then you also have some smaller wins at the state house level. For example, in Texas, where a Republican flipped a state house seat in San Antonio, right? So again, this is kind of a big deal, right? There is a red wave going across this country and a massive backlash against Democrats. And I just think that what's happening in Virginia, what's happening in New Jersey, on top of the whole rejection of the defunded police thing, it really shows you that we're at a tipping point and that, things are not looking good for the Democrats. And also, I want to mention that in regards to the defunded police thing, that being voted no in a city like Minneapolis, where the movement was essentially born, tells you that Black Lives Matter is done, right? This whole social justice movement is done. It's kind of soured, right, with a lot of Americans. Like, the policy proposals that they're pushing in the name of social justice, people just don't really want it, right? They don't really want it. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.